like to welcome you to the show, the Locally Show. Do you know what that stands for?
MAGA? Yes, make America
Yes.
great again.
I know you do because you're part of the Freedom Caucus, right?
I've endorsed Trump.
Oh, good, good. So this show is basically MAGA, but it's designed for the local citizen, for the city and the state level. Everybody thinks MAGA is a Trump thing. No, this is a local thing. We're trying to fix issues that we're having at the city level and the state level. So I just want to welcome you today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come onto the show. I'd like to welcome our audience. And for those of you that might not know you, which is probably very few people at this point, I think everybody knows you, but would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Senator Jill Carter from Southwest Missouri, obviously, serving as the state senator for Jasper and Newton County. We live east of Neosho just a little bit. I've got 5 kids, one with special needs. We have a farm there where we raise cows and have some horses and the menagerie that comes with a little bit of a hobby farm. But yes, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Senator. You know, it's been a busy week in politics at the national level. And from what I've been listening to the audio podcasts, and I've seen uh, articles flying around about the state capitol, it looks like there was a bunch of fireworks over the weekend or over the last weekend. Um, you
Yeah,
want to
I'm not
touch
going
on
to
that
say
a little
it's on
bit?
as smooth as silk, right? We all went into this session with a little bit of apprehension with some elections, coming up. This is a last year for a lot of them to be in session. A lot of them are running for statewide office, and so as you talked with other people, they were a little bit apprehensive about how this session would go. Um, I don't think anybody anticipated the fireworks as soon in session as they as we have, but but no, there's a good reason for why we're here and why things have happened the way that they've happened. And unfortunately, that's kind of the situation we're in.
Right. You know, I'd like to cover a few things. I want to talk about IP reform. Of course, I want to talk about your Freedom Caucus. The filibuster, I understand it started off the first day with the 11-hour filibuster. We'll get into a little bit of that. And then I kind of want to talk about the good old boy system. And, now that I bring up the good old boy system, I'm sure you by now have watched the Carrie Lake interview or the Carrie Lake leak tape. So I'm just going to play this clip, and I'd like to get your comment on that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, please
Bear
do.
with me as I pull this up. Senator, can you see the screen?
I can.
All right, let's hit play and let's see what they have to say.
What's going on? I'm assuming this is our friend.
Oh, this is back east. There are very powerful people that want to keep you out.
I know they do.
But they're willing to put their money where their mouth is in a big way. So this conversation never happened.
This is crazy, though. They should want me. I'm a great candidate. People love me. These people are corrupt.
Well, maybe you're right.
They are right. They are corrupt.
Maybe this never happened. Don't go. You never know. I'll get myself in trouble. This, if you say no, which is fine, it's your choice. Don't tell people.
They're gonna try to have me murdered.
Not that either. Today's world, man. If that stuff that came out last week is right about the cartel stuff, right? They said the cartel's operating in 50 states right now, like all 50. You know? So
what's going on? Who is it? What?
Forget the who. Let me just tell you the what. Let's just say there are people calling around saying, "Gosh, no, they can't repeat this. Never repeat this. If you say no, don't. If you say I got offered to buy out, don't use it, because then we lose our ability to get things done in the future."
Here's my problem. Rather than just say, let's work with her, she's a great candidate, because they don't own me, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, it's not about ownership.
All right, Senator, I'll stop it right there. Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
Awesome. I didn't realize politics was that dirty. So I think a lot of the times when I talk to constituents here in District 32 in Joplin, Missouri, and they see things come out like this on the national stage of how the bribery is taking place. And then so when I listen to the audio tape from the Senate floor, when the speaker President Pro Tem Caleb Rowden, Cindy O'Loughlin, of course, was at odds with Senator Eigel, who's standing up, leading the charge for the filibuster. I think, people see that this dirty politics is taking place and they're concerned. And now they're concerned at our Missouri Capitol. I mean, what do you think? Do they have a right to be concerned?
They should be very concerned. As somebody, a little bit of my backstory was of somebody who had been going to the Capitol for, a decade. This is the very kind of thing that we saw going on. I think the best civics lesson a person could have is trying to get a piece of legislation across the finish line, which was the case that I was in. I was trying to plead the case of my local school and getting the Department of Ed out of their business, out of our local school board's business. And so I trying to get legislation across the finish line up there. We saw this very, very thing happen. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it becomes easier to see and pick up on. And then I would come home and sit in, these meetings that we have where legislators come and report back, and they would get up, and I'm not saying any of this to disparage them, but they would get up and talk about how, we got this done and we got that done. And I knew from having been up there what they could have had done, right? How good it could have been. And it seems like when we get those big wins, it's always incrementally. It's like, woo, look at this big thing we did. You get one crumb when what was offered or fought for in good legislation was reform, true reform. But those things were rarely talked about, and the roadblocks were rarely talked about. And so having seen that, I think for me personally, COVID was that pivotal point where I was up at the Capitol. There was a bill offered that would give liability protection to everybody but small businesses and those who are struggling to keep their livelihood. And we brought that attention to the bill sponsor, and the former senator was the co-sponsor to that bill. And my issue that I was trying to draw a parallel to is, look, if it's okay for hospitals and nursing homes and manufacturers of vaccines to have complete immunity, then what about the business owners that are trying to stay open, and you're putting them under the Department of Health and Human Services without any rein? Like, they could promulgate any rule that everybody else would have to follow, and except for these three entities that had complete liability. And they probably should have had liability. That isn't the issue. But what about the local coffee shop or the little mom and pop store? And what about your church, right, that's trying to stay open? We saw that happen across the country. And so we offered tried to offer an amendment that would have given churches, because we thought surely they'll give the same immunity that they're willing to give to the hospitals and nursing homes, they'll give to the churches so that they could serve their people. And the argument in the debate on the floor was no, that pastors were potential bad actors and that they shouldn't have immunity. And sitting up there in the gallery, having my senator argue against churches having immunity during COVID was shocking to me. It wasn't the first time I was surprised by some things, but was like, if I had a GoPro on my head and my community and the district could see some of the things that I had seen, the hope was that they would want to change, that there would be, but nobody's telling them, right? Nobody's talking about some of the stuff that would go on, and they would come home again and just say, oh, look what we got done, and pat them on the heads and tell them everything's good. And now what we're seeing play out nationally and even in the state is people know things are broken. Just there's very few people that are talking about it.
No, I think every citizen I talk to is worried about it, but they're afraid sometimes to speak up and say, oh yeah, we are. But I think the tide is turning. They're seeing things on the national level. They're seeing the border wide open. And I listened to the audio clip, and I was very happy to hear this, that you stood up on the floor and you actually continuing resolution for Texas governor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Provide support to the. That's awesome. I think what do we have, like 23 states now?
Yeah, and honestly, it should have happened, 2 years ago, 4 years, nearly 4 years ago. I mean, we should have, as soon as Trump got out, we saw what was going on, that the border was porous. We should have injected and infused some kind of demands from the federal government saying that we want our border secure.
Right. We're talking about IP reform as well. So when I first heard the term IP reform, I was like, what is IP reform? I didn't quite catch it. I didn't understand. Is there a way that you could kind of dumb that down for me just a little bit? I mean, I've done a lot of research on it, so not only can you kind of dumb it down, but can you give us an example?
Yeah, so IP reform stands for Initiative Petition Reform. And so you see, you see them stand outside Walmart, people with clipboards asking for you to sign your name to try for some ballot initiative or something. And that's what it is. What it is, it's a process of changing our state constitution without going through the legislative process. So it circumvents the legislative process, goes directly onto the ballot. I, in the past, had filed one myself, for parents' rights.
How did that go?
Well, yeah, gathering. So actually, we had quite a bit of support, but anyway, it's a hefty lift. You have to. I think it was like 250,000 ballot signatures. They have to be verified, working within the Secretary of State's office, and so it is difficult to do at a grassroots level. But it's come very close to being done before with some issues. So what's happened is the IP process has been, the last few years, last decade, has been kind of circumvented by special interest groups to change our state constitution. You saw that with the marijuana issue, right? That circumvented the legislature and went directly to the people. And now we have 30-something pages into our state constitution that a lot of people thought was just for medical marijuana.
Can I ask you a question right there?
Yeah.
Something comes to mind. So when I was listening to the audio tape about this IP reform and listening to, was it Caleb Browden, the senator from
Columbia.
So the fear from a lot of the people I'm speaking to is that now abortion is going to be rammed down Missouri's throat because these big party, big interest, big money, even from outside the state, are now, diving in on Missouri to try to change our constitution. And then Caleb, the Senator Rowden, Cindy O'Laughlin, I'd like for you to kind of explain the roles on how that bill, like a bill might come to a vote and how it comes out of the floor so it can go up to a vote for the people. But if I'm understanding correctly, basically they are allowing these special interest groups to come in and actually probably get abortion approved if they don't use the IP reform and push that legislation forward. Is that correct?
Right, because we had what was called the heartbeat bill that we passed,
right,
years ago, and that protected life, especially in the case where Roe v. Wade was overturned in Missouri. So there was an automatic mechanism in place that abortion would be banned if Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that. I mean, I don't think that they expected that to ever happen, but when it did, that trigger law went into effect, and so now there's a ban on abortion. And now, just like Kansas and other states, the initiative petition process is being used to kind of be weaponized against those values to change our state constitution to make abortion a right. And all, we've tried to get IP reform. If this tells you how broken it is, we've tried to get IP reform passed for 5 years. It last year, and I'll just speak to my experience just in the legislature this year, beginning of this year, and then last year. But when we were at winter caucus last year, so caucus is just where everybody all the Republicans get together, the senators get together, and we kind of hash out our priorities.
Right.
Well, it's more partying for them and lobbyists, whatever.
That's
but
what I've heard. I heard it's like a frat party.
That was my first time, and honestly, I thought, well, we talked very little about policy, but for the few hours that we did talk about policy, the one day, IP reform was the number one priority. And so I'm thinking, I mean, I'm naive, I'm new to this. Well, awesome, good. So that we're equally yoked in this process and getting this passed. And what we saw happen, or at least what I saw happen, and what ended up coming to fruition, is that IP didn't come back to the Senate until the last week or two of session. And what was passed from the House was a threshold change to where it was 56%. That an IP reform bill, constitutional amendment, had to pass by a majority of 56%. So it's a popular vote still.
Right.
And the pause in that is that has never passed any state that's been tried. Because, and truly, there's some authenticity to this, that people perceive that as government not responding to the voice of the people. Like, why do we have to have 56%, right? That's changing the threshold to have us be able to respond to something feels undemocratic.
Right.
So, go ahead.
No, I understand your point there. As I look at, for somebody that hasn't spent any time with the Senate, and I'm listening to these audio tapes, because I find it odd that they don't allow video inside the chamber. And I understand it's a very formal venue. It comes from an old English history, and it's very.
Yeah, we're not even allowed to have our iPads on our desks. So everything's paper, pencil, no iPads. So yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if, I was always brought up, if things are hidden or secretive or transparent, then it's usually kind of deceptive and probably not good things are growing. So it's really frustrating for me when I'm listening to these audios here. Can we speak to the senator from Boone County or from whatever county, Newton County? So for the common person to just even understand the inner workings of the Senate, it's very difficult unless they've actually gone there, sat in person, followed the system. So I wouldn't mind if you just take maybe a minute or two and explain what are the roles of like the Cindy O'Loughlin, Senator Round. Sometimes I'm hearing from constituents here that sometimes they take a good piece of legislation that should be easy to pass, and they hold that hostage so that they can sneak in some bad legislation that really nobody wants, like the big special interest group want it passed. And they use that as kind of a carrot and stick routine to pass stuff that never normally would get passed, or in these big Congress.
Well, that's no, for sure. I mean, I think we saw the GM bill happen years ago, and they held that hostage for SEPA, right? Like, there's not a world in which you don't get something without paying for it somewhere else. And so, I mean, God bless Carrie Lake.
Right. Oh, she's a brave
and
woman.
I mean that sincerely, because most people do not have the gumption to. I mean, she gives me encouragement, because that's the big challenge where I sit is, I'm willing to fight, and I'm running because I want change, because I've seen this kind of attitude perpetuated. But the big question in my mind is, gosh, I hope there's other people who care about the truth.
Right.
And if there's not people who show up, because the only thing that the establishment fears is the shackles falling off the eyes of the people. But you have to have the momentum and the exposure and the access to the media big enough to make that happen, right?
Can I put you on the spot here in front of everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask you to maybe try to do like a regular interview with me? So maybe like a once a week or once every couple of weeks, so maybe that the people can actually hear directly from you on what's going on, instead of having to listen to these talking heads, listen to the sometimes newspapers or media outlets that have a slanted view of things. They just really want to know the facts, and they want to know it in an eighth grade level. Like, I just want to know the simplicities of things. I'm not trying to be soulful. So would that be
No, I would.
you on to?
I would always welcome that. It is a big challenge because even sometimes when you put stuff out on Facebook, you know, you watch it and it just flatlines, right? It's not getting out there, and so it's like, okay, I don't know how to. So I see this as just being a great vehicle for me as well to try to give access to you guys.
'Cause I know,
Something they need to know also is that even with my newsletter that gets sent out every week, it is funneled through um, staff in the Senate.
okay, so they have to approve everything that goes out.
So
Not
there's
your
only
internal staff,
what's that?
not like the staff that work specifically for you, but
No.
the staff.
Yeah. So there's Senate staff. So if I send something out that leans a little too much contradictory to what they think, you know, it should, then I get a phone call. So
So much for freedom and transparency, right?
yeah. So you have to nuance things a little bit, and you have to say, you know, obviously here's, you know, and that's, we're always trying to walk that line and to be able to have the conversation that with people to say, okay, and again, I'm throw the gauntlet down. I mean, the time is now or it's never. So yeah, thank you.
I hope you have just a few more minutes because have you ever seen the movie House of Cards with Kevin Spacey? He plays a
Honestly,
character called Frank Underwood.
I have, I have not watched it because honestly, it's a little too much. I've heard that they're a little too much true to life, and I have enough of that. So I'm like,
So listen, I'm listening to the audio and I'm hearing Senator Eigel and the Magnificent Seven, like there's six plus Mike Moon and you guys are all on the team, the Freedom Caucus, which I would like for you to talk just a little bit about. But before we get into that, because this is about the filibuster, and you're right, because this House of Cards is almost identical to real life, what's going on inside our politics. And this scene here is about a filibuster and how the leadership of the Senate just basically steamrolled everybody. And when they steamroll these congressmen or these senators, that means they're steamrolling the American people who put them there to stand up. So that's what frustrates we the people is we send people like you to go out there and speak as our representative. And then when you get there, you have somebody that sets up on high with a gavel and says, "No, you're doing it my way because I got more friends than you." And when I
I'm
was
glad.
listening, when I was listening to the audio, I just found some serious egos that were coming out, almost to the point where it was sickening. Uh, how do you go from being a senator, newly elected, representing yourself, to standing up and telling somebody, "Well, I have more friends than you do, and I'm going to take your parking spot. You're going to shut up. You're going to sit down. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and I'm going to be Speaker or Secretary of State because I have more friends, and you're going to be governor." If the American people or Missourians would hear that, I mean, with their own ears and see it with their own eyes, they'd be appalled. They'd be like, "Get this guy out of office."
Well, like the
I mean,
GoPro on my head, right? Like I've talked
right,
about that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
No, and so that's the big wrestle. How do we connect the two ends? I mean, like I said, I keep going back to it. It's the one thing I wrestle with constantly because it is why I ran.
Right.
And because I was seeing it firsthand. Now the other questions are okay. Hurdle number one is we got elected. Hurdle number two to fix the problem is how do we get the word out? How do we help people feel like they are really the answer?
Right.
When for so many years they've been told, you don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, right? Like if it's ever been a time for all hands on deck, it's now. And I liken it to a football game where you've got the quarterback who's got the football. You know, I've got the football, right?
Right.
Have you ever seen a football game without any offense?
No.
Right? Like that'd be insane. And I ask the high school
Right.
kids that all the time. It's like, who likes football? Well, everybody loves football. Go Chiefs. But
Right.
but but you never see a game where somebody's got the football, the quarterback's got the football, and there's no offense. Well, I've got the football. You guys are my offense. Like the only way that we can really make a difference for the things that you say you want is for us to work as a team. And you've got a bill for sludge that's being spread on farmland that might be dangerous.
I know the farmers. I've been talking to them. They are so excited about it. the people here, they're tired of getting their lands, their rivers completely destroyed by these big.
Right. And then you also have a bill that would help your schools and the teachers and the parents that have
I know you've been a fighter for the schools for what, maybe 10 years. I did a little research on you. And I think you've been an activist in education.
It's almost been about 12 years now. So yeah. And again, it all started because my schools, the teachers coming to me. But anyway, so you have those bills that you just see that such a need in your community. You're in a place to do that, right? Make an impact for them. And then what they do is they come to you and say, you know what? If you don't sit down and be quiet, you know what's going to happen to your bills? They'll go nowhere.
They're going to go nowhere, and you're not going to get any committee appointments, no leadership positions, and they're going to sideline.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so, I give you guys lots of credit for the Freedom Caucus. Could you please list the other members on the Freedom Caucus? I don't know.
Yeah, love to. So Bill Eigel, Rick Bratton is the president of the Freedom Caucus. He's from Kansas City area. He's a Marine, you know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Marines.
Yep. And my brother was a Marine. So Rick Bratton's is our chair. Denny Hoskins, Bill Eigel, Nick Schroer, Andrew Koenig, and myself. So I'm trying to think. I don't think I've left anybody out. But those are the 6 in the Senate. And Mike Moon isn't a part of the Freedom Caucus, but he's very like-minded. And so there's on a good day, we've got the 7. And so, yeah. And I'm the secretary of the Freedom Caucus, so I try to help with coordinating and things like that. But the goal and the idea was we knew we needed cover. We needed some kind of political cover. And you're seeing what's going on at the national level. Eric Burleson's a member of the Freedom Caucus at the national level. They're trying to push back. And so we thought if we were equally yoked with a bigger group or an organization, it would be easy. Maybe it'd be easier for us to break the glass ceiling of communication, get the support that we needed, and try to make a difference.
Yeah, I think the Freedom Caucus is so needed because if IP reform is the number one issue for the Republicans and you have a supermajority, why can't we get past it?
Well, I mean,
really, what would be holding it up? I mean, because I heard an audio clip where Senator Rowden said that was his number one. This was a while back.
Well, everybody says that. I mean, it's election season and you've got these big issues. I mean, our Second Amendment rights, it's not just an abortion issue, right? You have your Second Amendment rights. They're trying to gut SEPA.
Right. Yeah, they want
so
to your guns.
Yes. Yeah. So they're out there trying to take away our guns and through this initiative petition process. And that's why I'm saying the urgency is now. Because we've got these big liberal millionaires that are circumventing the legislative process to change our state constitution to where it's something that we don't even recognize.
So what is Senator O'Loughlin's role as far as what is her position?
She's our majority leader.
Okay.
So her job is to move the bills through, call bills onto the floor. So basically she's like a traffic. She directs traffic and just makes sure that things kind of move smoothly.
Are things moving smoothly?
They're not now. I think for many years
they have. To answer that. I'm not going to put you on the spot. So I read an article that was basically saying Cindy O'Loughlin, or should she say Cindy Pelosi? She was equating that Cindy O'Loughlin was very similar to Nancy Pelosi on, you don't need to read the bill. We're going to pass an omnibus bill, and it's all going to be ran through, and you just need to vote for it. Is that a misrepresentation, or is there validity to that? I don't want to put you against a fellow senator, and so I'm not going to. You don't have to answer that question, but I've been hearing these things, and sometimes you just want to know what's the truth, what's spin, what's the rumor.
Listen, I don't have a personality conflict with any of those senators.
Right.
I mean, I sat next to two Democrats at the State of the State address. We just filed in and sat down. I have no issue sitting or interacting. In fact, it shouldn't be, personal. But when it comes to policy, I can disagree with somebody and still go and have a civil conversation. I hope that we're in the public square, we're able to demonstrate what civic dialogue looks like and still be able to walk away from each other and respect, our differences, coming together in the public square. We're not doing that. We're not modeling the kind of dialogue that our country and our state is hungry to see, right? It's all of this infighting. It's a lot of left, right, up, down. We don't even listen to each other anymore. We just talk over each other. And so there's that level. And then the second layer is when it does matter, then we have to be willing to fight.
Right.
But
I think
again,
that's where we're at now. I think from what I'm seeing is on a national level, that's where we're at. I mean,
yep.
The MAGA candidate, Trump's, pretty much leading the polls in every indication. So at the state level, I see these MAGA supporters at the state level. I mean, the people are fed up and they're tired. They're tired of the hidden trick, the dark lobby room with cigars and scotch, trying to figure out where they're going to get their donation from. I think people are fed up with it.
Well, and that's what I said. That's what I said on the Senate floor right before all the filibustering started to happen. I went to the floor and there was a bit of a pause, and I just stood up and said, if I've ever done anything to another senator that personally offended you, please come to me and talk to me. I'm giving you permission to come and speak to me. I'm assuming that I can do the same for you. To come to you personality. If we have a personality conflict, just let me know. But when it comes to policy, none of this should be seen as personal.
I'm going to stop you right here because I'm going to show this one clip because this is what people think when they think of state politics or national politics. So give me 1 second because I know we got to wrap this up. You're short for time. And again, I'm so appreciative that you took the time to get on the show with me.
I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
Grammarly now uses AI to help you write, not just
I'll cut
revise.
this out.
Type a prompt and generate a persuasive, mistake-free draft in seconds, personalized to your unique.
I might have to watch that, actually.
Oh, I'm trying to stop the screen there. Yeah, so after I've been watching all the things with Terry Lake, all the bribery, and then listening to the state clips and seeing this back and forth, all the big money, I think there's a couple $1 million that has been dumped in already to push abortion in Missouri, if I'm reading that article.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 million is 2 million so far. Last count a few days ago. So here's what's at stake, right? We have our Second Amendment rights that are on the line. We have the life issue. We have all of the backdoor dealing, which is what I said on the floor too. Look, maybe what needs to happen is a little bit more of those conversations on the Senate floor, so we all know what's going on, right? Because what happens is oftentimes you feel like you're making progress and really everybody's sabotaging everything in the back rooms, which creates a lot of angst and frustration and a lack of trust. And for everybody to go to the floor and say, yeah, this is our number one bill, our number one priority, then you shouldn't have a problem standing up and defending. I mean, if there's only 7 of us standing and willing to stand and filibuster and using a rule that's in the rule book to bring such an item to the floor, like, don't act like we're doing something. I mean, has it ever been done before? No, but it is a rule of the Senate.
It's legal. It's part of the
right.
rules, right?
For such a time as this. Exactly. And why are we not equally yoked in this? Exactly. And so that's the rub. But again, when you're told, well, you're not going to get those things passed, and if you don't sit down, you've got a lot of years, Senator.
One thing I found that is, like, you see these national stage, you'll see Democrats, they project what they're doing behind closed doors and illegal. They try to make it look like the opposition's doing it. And so when I'm listening to all these things at the state level, it almost seems exactly the same. There is just, the things that they're doing, and they just project it onto somebody else like you're the problem. They're calling the Freedom Caucus the problem. And in reality, you guys are standing up and telling the truth, and you have an enormous risk. You're taking all the risk. If you just wanted to get along, get campaign funding, get reelected, I know you guys wouldn't be standing there with the shield, taking all the arrows for we, the American people, and we, the Missourian people. And specifically, Senator Carter, I want to thank you from the District 32 of Joplin and the Osho and the surrounding area. We're tired of the politics. And when I first saw you at the event speak, and I thought, wow, she's real. This is somebody I want to get behind. So I want to just tell you once again, thank you for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it. I won't waste much of your time. If you have anything else you'd like to close, say before we close, I do know that I have an event coming up on March 15th, I think. The Night for the People.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, so Congressman Burleson's going to be there. We've confirmed with him. We've got Aaron Dorr with Missouri Firearms Coalition. He's going to be there, and a guy out of Mercury One Radio who when I heard him speak, I was like, man, I would love to bring him to our community. So if you have a heart for our country, for patriotism, this is a night to honor you, and to kind of fill your cup. I mean, we're getting beat up out there in the world, when it comes to government and seeing what's going on with our country. So it's just an opportunity for us to all come together and just fill our cups. So.
And I understand, if I looked at the article, it said there's going to be free dinner that's provided.
Yes.
It's at the Joplin Worship Center on East 7th Street. I think the doors open at 5:30, so it's from 6 to 8 p.m. If you want to know about the Constitution, if you want to know about your gun rights or your Second Amendment, if anybody wants to engage you, you'll be there to take any questions.
So for me, this is how I see it. It's a state of the district night.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, I just want to let you guys know where we're at with things. It's the only chance that I have to really get face-to-face interaction. I mean, I can do it individually, but it's a way to collectively come together and decide what it is that we want as a district. And I will try to respect and honor that vision. So.
Well, I've covered a lot of things here. I really, the buzz, right? I had a different set of questions I really wanted to ask you, but with all the drama that's taking place at Jefferson City, and I mean, it's like a soap opera. I mean, I would have almost paid money on pay-per-view to watch some of it.
No, yeah, you don't need House of Cards, right? Like I said, you just need a subscription. Yeah. So I do, if I could, I just want people to know that the audio is live streamed, on the Senate. So you can go back there. It's archived. You can go back and listen. You can listen to last year how we tried to be so good. The 6 or 7 of us that are just feel this heavy compulsion to try to stand up and fight because we were told we were the problem. And so we pushed the limits a little bit and we're told to be quiet. And they told us we would get our stuff done if we did. And that didn't happen. And now we're just not willing to do that. I mean, I'm not.
You know what aggravates me also is I'm a veteran as well. And Senator Eigel is the chairman of the veteran
committee. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they stripped a veteran because he's a veteran himself, or Marine, I think, right?
Air Force.
Air Force, right? So now the committee no longer has an actual.
Yeah, they have 3 veterans that have been stripped from their committees.
Wow, that's a slap in the face to all military people. Just wait till I.
So you have Bill Eigel, who is Air Force. You have Rick Bratton, who's a Marine, and Denny Hoskins, who's also served. I'm not sure what branch of the military he served, but he also served. And so, no, it's all platitudes and campaign talk and rhetoric. But when push comes to shove, this is the plight that we're in, right? So, like I said, if there's any patriotic feelings or love for what we all have in common, which is the love of this country, then please, yeah, engage.
Senator Carter, where can people follow you? You have Facebook, Twitter, website, all of it, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So most of it is Jill Carter, Twitter. Confession, I'm so bad at social media. So it's Jill Carter for Senate 32, I think, for Facebook. It's similar for Twitter and Instagram. So.
And I got on your site and I subscribed for your newsletter. You kick out a weekly newsletter.
Yes. And so you can So you can just email us and let us know you want to be on that newsletter. Like I said, sometimes it's a little filtered, but it gives you some of the fluff that they like to send out with pictures of all the easy stuff. And you would just email jill.carter@senate.mo.gov. Yeah, and let me know. Yeah, and if you want to email and let me know your thoughts on everything that's going on out there, I would value that as well.
And also, since I kind of sneaked it in there, I put you on the spot to ask for follow-on interviews. Maybe in the future, we could actually do a live town hall, and we can get up to 100 people in the platform. And they can set an audience, and then if they have questions, we can bring them on one at a time, and they can ask you one question. So maybe in the future, that's something we can do.
Yeah, let's do it.
Senator Carter, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I know you're so busy. We love you. We appreciate all that you're doing. And keep doing what you. Oh, one last thing. My wife and my two boys, we're gonna actually go. I saw it on one of the social media, Facebook. January 30th, they're gonna have a protest or in support of the Freedom Caucus there at the Capitol. So I know I homeschool my boys, so this is gonna be a homeschool lesson in governance and what good people should do when evil is starting to pervade. When evil lurks and it starts pushing in on your family life and your community life and well-being of your friends and family, you've got to stand up. And right now is the time I think we all have to stand up. And I think it's so important. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive 3 hours, my kids, my wife, and we're going to sit out there all day. I did that on January 6th. I thought it was that time. So on January 6th, when Trump had his speech, we were there. We were there for 3 days. We spoke with people from all over the United States and even foreign countries, and they were plumbers, electricians, teachers, just everyday people like you and I. Well, not you, because you're a senator.
No, I don't consider myself.
I'm just playing. You're one of the most down to earth. Yes, you are. You're one of the most down to earth senators. But what they made January 6th look like, I can tell you, it was an out and out lie because I was there. We prayed for 3 days. You could not walk around the White House without a group of individuals praying. And I'm talking over 1 million people. And they were singing Amazing Grace, singing hymns. But if you look at the mainstream media, they made it look like a bunch of domestic terrorists. And this is why Missourians are getting angry, because we're being called domestic terrorists. When we go out and pray, we get on our knees, we go to the flagpole, and we have prayer groups.
You're an extremist.
I'm an extremist. And that's why I am here today on this talk show. And we're done. We're done playing. We've been on defense. We got to go on offense.
For sure. And I say this all the time. We're in a war of words, and we have to. They're using vernacular against us, right? And you have to have a pulse on who your elected officials are. I want you to know me inside and out, right? Because the deeper you know me and my vision and my heart for all of you, then the better I can serve you. But also, I feel like I can be more authentic. Like, here's what we're fighting for. And it's easier to be behind somebody when you know and understand their heart and you have a shared vision.
I will give you a little warning. Be careful on House of Cards because it's probably worse than R-rated. So
Okay. Thanks for the heads up. I'll have the remote handy.
Well, if anybody that makes a movie after the Clintons, it's got to be X-rated. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. So anyway, thank you, Senator. I appreciate your time. Go spend time with your family and keep fighting for District 32. We appreciate you.
I sure appreciate it, Donnie. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, guys.